Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining today's webinar on cash flow management for childcare businesses. I'm excited to share some practical insights that can help strengthen your financial foundation of your business. Your business's cash flow describes the amount of money coming into and leaving your business over a certain period of time. In addition to helping you meet your current financial obligations, understanding and managing your cash flow helps you plan for the future. It helps you to seize opportunities for growth, and it's going to help you make sound business decisions. Before we get started, I do need to give you a little disclaimer. The information contained here has been prepared by Civitas Strategies and is not intended to constitute legal, tax, or financial advice. The Civitas Strategy team has used reasonable efforts in collecting, preparing, and providing this information, but does not guarantee its accuracy, completeness, adequacy, or currency. The publication and distribution of this information is not intended to create, and receipt does not constitute an attorney-client or any other advisory relationship. Reproduction of this information and recording of this content, including the use of AI, are expressly prohibited. Only non-commercial uses of this work are permitted. All right, so in today's conversation, we're going to explore three main questions. First, what exactly is cash flow, and why is it so important to your childcare business? Second, what financial information do you need to effectively track and forecast your cash flow? And third, how do you actually get started with the process? By the end of our time together, you'll have a clear understanding of how to develop and use cash flow forecasts to strengthen your business's financial health. You'll also walk away with practical tools and some strategies that can help you implement this right away. Let's start by understanding what cash flow is and how it differs from your regular budget. Okay, many of you likely already have a budget for your childcare business, which is excellent. A budget gives you a plan for how you intend to allocate your resources, but cash flow gives you something different and equally valuable. Cash flow is different from your monthly budget because you're doing this, the period of time is different. Once you have a monthly budget going, you may still have questions. How much am I making over time? Your budget might tell you what you expect to earn and spend in a given month, but your cash flow forecast is going to show you patterns over time, including seasonal fluctuations that are common in childcare businesses. Will you have enough cash to pay yourself or to pay your bills? This is crucial because timing matters. You might have tuition payments coming in on the 5th of the month, but your rent is due on the 1st. Understanding cash flow helps you manage these timing differences. How much are you making? This helps to see the actual financial health of your business beyond just a snapshot of a single month. If you have any of these questions, learning about cash flow can help you understand them with confidence. And here's where I'm going to stick in a little bit of my own experience. I oversaw a program that I'm a caregiver. This is my background. I've done early childhood for several years. And when they asked me to start doing budgeting and cash flow, it was very scary, very scary. It was intimidating, and that might be scary and intimidating to a lot of us, right? They made me do it. Basically, my job said, you have to do this, Melinda. So I did it reluctantly, but once I learned and once I saw the benefits of knowing this, because we go through our days kind of guessing if we have enough, especially if you're a family childcare provider. You're like, I don't know, do I have enough? Or we take the money we receive and we just use it. We don't know whether or not we reinvest it or should we save it. So there's a lot of questions we have just by taking and using the money. Once I was able to get a handle on what I was looking past the monthly budget, I started to see trends, and we're going to look at those. And once we saw that, it was easier for me to get a grasp on my budget over a period of time. And so, again, I'm going to give you an analogy, if you will. Think of a river that you're going down this river and you get on the river and it looks beautiful. You're in your canoe and you're going down, but what you don't realize is way down the river, there's rapids and there's a waterfall. And those rapids and waterfalls represent problems you might have, issues, money, money lost or expenses. And so wouldn't you want to be prepared for those rapids in the future, right? So if you're getting on a river, you're not just going to get on, you want to know the route, right? So this is how we should think of our cash flow. It's not something to be afraid of. It's something that we can use so that we're prepared to handle things that come in the future for our business. Okay? All right. The cash flow forecast is one of the best tools you can have for understanding how healthy your organization is in the near term. Predicting cash flow is not about budgeting. It's about understanding how much money you're taking in minus how much money is going out, and crucially, when that money is moving. The challenge with cash flow is that you can have a lot of money that's owed to you. But if you don't have money on hand to pay the bills, then your business can find itself in financial trouble. For example, you might have parents who pay you at the end of the month for care, but you need to pay your staff weekly. This creates a timing gap that you need to manage. So knowing how much cash you have in the near term becomes a way of not only knowing what's coming in and going out, but also gives you a heads up about upcoming challenges with having enough cash available. This foresight is incredibly valuable for making proactive decisions rather than reactive ones. Okay? The following cash flow exercise is going to guide you through the process of making an important cash flow prediction for your business over the next 6 months. We've purposely chosen 6 months as a time frame because it's a nice snapshot that allows you to make decisions a few months away. But it's not so long that many things could change. Once you get the hang of this exercise, you will likely want to make it one of your weekly business habits. Some of the most successful childcare providers we know spend about 30 minutes each week reviewing and updating their cash flow projections, which helps them stay ahead of financial challenges. Let's look at building cash flow in 5 easy steps, which are going to be gathering your documentation, picking a time frame and scenarios, listing income, listing expenses, and reviewing trends. Each step is straightforward and builds on the previous one. Step 1, as we mentioned, is to gather your documentation. You'll want to pull about 2 to 4 months of documents that show your income and expenses. Here's a list of documents that can give you the information you need. Bank statements that can show your deposits from parents, from subsidies, or from grants, as well as withdrawals for expenses. You might want to pull your credit card statements to capture many of your regular purchases for your business. If you use Venmo or other payment apps to receive tuition, be sure to include those transaction records. Utility bills help you to track consistent monthly expenses and any other records of ways that you receive or spend money. That should be included as well. You want to use actual amounts when possible for greater accuracy. If you don't have actual amounts for everything, it's okay to use an average. For example, you might need to use your electric bill because you don't know exactly how much electricity you'll use over the next few months. But the more accurate your data is, the more reliable your forecast will be. Just going back on a budget, there's 2 times when you're going to look at your budget in a month. And this is a monthly budget, different from cash flow. In the beginning of the month, when you start to do your budget, you are going to estimate. You're going to guess, right? So for that electric bill, you might say, I think based on the past couple of months, my electric bill should be $250. Okay, so you put that down. At the end of the month, when you actually get the bill and you look at it, the bill actually came out to $280. Okay, so within that month, you're going to make a decision. For the next month, do I budget more or do I do something to bring back down the cost of that expense, right? As you start to do this, so you have what we call what you budget for and your actual. The actual is what you need every month to carry on into your cash flow. Okay, so that's why we say, to be as accurate as possible. We recommend creating a folder, whether it's physical or digital, where you can collect these documents as they come in. And this will make the process a lot easier each time you update your forecast. Step 2 is to pick a time frame and consider scenarios. Remember, now this part is not the budget part. Try to use a time frame that's long enough to allow you to make decisions past 1 or 2 months. Not only is it going to give you practice, but this is going to be a short enough time that in case some challenges or changes need to happen, you can make them down the road. We think 6 months is a good time frame, but adjust as needed and choose what works for you. Never use more than a year, as projections that far out tend to become less accurate, especially in the dynamic of childcare environments where enrollment can change seasonally. You should also consider scenario planning, which can help your organization generally, but particularly in times of great uncertainty. Through scenario planning, you can articulate changes that may happen over time so you can see and plan for their potential impacts. For example, if 3 families leave your program unexpectedly, what if you receive that grant you applied for? Scenario planning helps you prepare for these possibilities. When it comes to scenario planning, though you can use any number of scenarios, typically it is good to develop 3. The first one is going to be your best case scenario, where your revenue and your expenses shift to ease the stress on your business. Maybe this includes full enrollment, timely payments from all the families, and no unexpected expenses. Okay. Second is your base case scenario and base. Okay. Usually the status quo. If the future plays out as you currently expect it to happen, this is what you realistically predict will occur based on current trends and information. The third will be your worst case scenario, where revenue and expenses will trend in ways that could happen and would result in more difficult positions for your business. Perhaps this includes losing a couple of enrollments, delayed subsidy payments, or an unexpected repair cost. Creating these 3 scenarios helps you think through different possibilities and develop contingency plans. This practice can significantly reduce stress when changes occur because you've already thought through how you would respond. So these are the rapids that we're talking about. Okay, you want to prepare, make sure you have your life vest on, if you will. Okay. To build the scenarios, identify the most significant factors and how they may trend in each scenario. Make sure you consider factors that are both the revenue and expenses sides. Try to keep to just the most important factors, the 3 to 5 most likely to change in the future, which could have the most significant impact on your organization. For example, a potential increase in your healthcare costs by 50% would be a likely factor for your worst case scenario, whereas 1% increase in office supplies would likely not be included because it wouldn't significantly impact your overall financial picture. Make sure you include a list of these factors. Writing them down will ensure you remember how you got to that particular scenario you've created. If you can, articulate the cost impact in actual dollars, such as what happens if you get the $10,000 grant, or a percentage, such as 10% increase to the cost of supplies. As you run through the rest of these steps, do one set of tables for each scenario so you can see the impact. This might seem like a little extra work, but having these different projects and projections, ready will be invaluable if circumstances change suddenly. Now that we've laid the groundwork out with your documentation and scenarios, let's move on to the heart of cash flow forecasting, tracking your income and expenses. This is where we start putting actual numbers into our forecast. Step 3 is to list your income. You'll want to categorize all of the money that comes into your business each month. For childcare businesses, common income categories include subsidy payments from government programs or agencies, grants that you receive from foundations, government programs, or other sources, tuition and fees paid directly by families for care, and you always want to include an other category for any miscellaneous income that doesn't fit neatly. Be specific about when you expect to receive each type of income. For example, if subsidy payments typically arrive on the 15th of the month, note that in your forecast. So if parent fees are due on the 1st, but typically come in throughout the first of the week, account for that timing as well. The more detailed and accurate you can be about your income timing, the better your cash flow forecast will reflect your actual situation. So you are creating your budget. Okay. Your budget is going to have a list of categories, and you'll see an example of this here shortly. And then you're going to match that every month, and you're going to keep track of those on a monthly. And that's how you're going to see your cash flow over a period of time. Here's what it looks like. The only thing that I would note on this one is that this one is listed horizontally, whereas if I were to take this, I would list it vertically, just so you can kind of do the math like old school traditionally, okay, where you can add stuff up. That is the only thing that I would do differently on this one. But if you'll notice on this example, this is how you might list out your sources of income in a monthly format. So for instance, if you have 10 children whose families pay $800 per month, your fees would be $8,000 monthly. If 3 of those children are subsidized and you receive $600 per month per child, your subsidy income would be $1,800 monthly. Now, if you notice how in March, we've accounted for both a fee increase, perhaps from $800 to $880 per child, and an anticipated grant of $1,000. Creating this detailed breakdown helps you visualize exactly when money will be coming in throughout your forecast period. Remember that income is only realized when you actually receive the money, not when it's promised or earned. So if a parent typically pays late, account for that reality in your timing by placing the income in the month you expect to actually receive it, not when it's technically due. Okay? Step 4, to list your expenses. Similar to income, you'll want to categorize all the money that leaves your business each month. For childcare businesses, common expense categories include, if you have staff, personnel, which is typically your largest expense category. It includes wages, benefits, and any contractor payments. Taxes, including payroll taxes, property taxes, and income taxes. Rent or mortgage payments for your facility. Utilities such as electricity, gas, water, and internet. Vehicle expenses if you use your own a car or van for your business. Phone costs for your business lines or cell phones. food and snacks for your children in your care, cleaning supplies, which have become an even more significant expense category recently, and loan payments for any business debt you're carrying, bank fees for your business accounts or payment processing, and you always want to include an other category for miscellaneous expenses that don't fit elsewhere. That could be lawn care. That could be, you have a bee hive outside the front door and you've got to call an exterminator. Stuff like that. I'm sorry. Speaking of bees, I've got a fly in my face. Okay. So those are those little expenses. Be sure to know when each expense is typically paid. For instance, rent might be due on the 1st, while utility bills might be due on the 15th. The timing again is crucial for accurate cash flow forecasting. Okay. So again, here's an example of how you might list your expenses by the month. For many childcare businesses, personal costs are the largest expense, often accounting for 60 to 80% of total expenses. In this example, you can see personnel represents about 70% of your monthly expenses. Notice that we've accounted for some typical fluctuations. Higher utility costs in February, perhaps heating in winter, or staff pay increase in March, and a significant other expense in March that might represent an annual insurance premium or equipment purchase. Don't forget about these irregular expenses that don't occur every month, such as annual insurance premiums, quarterly tax payments, or seasonal costs like higher heating bills in winter or air conditioning in summer. These irregular expenses can create cash flow challenges if not properly anticipated. And remember to include a line for your own compensation if you're the owner. Too often, childcare business owners pay themselves last or not at all when cash is tight. So by including your compensation in your cash flow forecast, you're recognizing its importance to the sustainability of your business. And that is common with family childcare providers. Like I said, we get the money, we use it, and we don't pay ourselves as if we were to be working for an employer. So we deserve that payment. So we deserve to get paid. So we always want to try and allocate for that. All right, step 5. Step 5 is to review the trends in your cash flow forecast. Your total cash flow over the next 6 months will be the total amount of revenue minus the total amounts of expenses. So you can also see the cash flow for each month by subtracting your total expenses from your total revenue for each month. Looking at cash flow month by month can be particularly helpful because some months your revenue might be less than expenses, but other months it might be more. This tells you when you need to save money from one month to another. So for example, many childcare programs experience lower enrollment during summer months or over winter holidays, creating seasonal dips in revenue. And this is going to help project those dips in advance. You can plan to set aside extra cash during higher revenue months to cover the leaner periods. And this trend analysis is where the real value of cash flow forecasting becomes apparent. It also allows you to see potential cash crunches before they happen and take proactive steps to address them. So as I mentioned before, remember I was overseeing a large program and I had to meet with our chief financial officer every month and looking at these numbers, and he would say, Melinda, why didn't we have this much income coming? Or Melinda, how come we spent this much? And I would have to go category by category to see what month by month what the differences were. And once I started to see that, I could explain to him why these things were happening. So what that told me was, and what we started to do was we started to forecast. So the following year, that I knew we were going to have those months that we were going to have lower income or revenue, I started to build up before we got to that point. So when we came to those months, we were kind of breaking even. Okay. And so those are the things that we would do, and you'll see them as you start to forecast highs and lows. But you can only do that if you're looking at them over a period of time. Here's an example of how you might calculate your monthly and total cash flow. For each month, you'll add up all your revenue categories to get total revenue and all your expense categories to get the total expenses. Then you subtract expenses from revenue to determine your cash flow for that month. A positive number means you're bringing in more than you're spending this month, while a negative number indicates that you'll draw on savings or other resources to cover all those expenses. The bottom row shows your totals for the entire 6-month period. This gives you a bigger picture view of your overall cash position. Even if some individual months show negative cash flow, as long as your total for the period is positive, you're generally in a good position. You just need to manage the timing of your cash carefully. I recommend you using a spreadsheet program like Excel or Google Sheets for this calculation, as it can automatically update your totals if you change any individual numbers, making it easy to test different scenarios. The other thing, again, I would make it go down vertically so it adds up better than to go long ways. Put the months on top instead of on the side. And then list your categories going down. Now, if you don't, have, you're not good at technology, Excel, whatever it is, the important part, it doesn't matter if you're using pen and paper as a family childcare provider, just start doing it and you can add it up. Just make rows on your notebook and just start. And you can do that. And, there's always ways that you can add technology later. But if you just get started, that's always a good thing. Okay. Now that you have your cash flow forecast in hand, the next step is to analyze what it's telling you. The analysis will help you identify patterns, challenges, and opportunities for your business. So let's look at some of those key questions to ask when you're reviewing your cash flow projection. Okay, now that you have your cash flow projection, you should ask yourself a series of questions for each scenario to understand any trends that appear. First, are you profitable overall? And a way to do that is if you're carrying money over into the next month, okay? If you're in the green, okay, or the black, they say. If you're doing those, then you're good. If you're in the negative, they'll say, are you in the red, right? Red, alert, 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 okay? So first, you want to make sure that you want to ask yourself, are you profitable overall? Second, are there months that are feast or famine? This helps you identify seasonal patterns that require special attention. Okay, third and fourth, which months have the highest and lowest profit? So when you understand these peaks and valleys, that'll help you plan for when you'll have extra cash and when you'll need to be more conservative. Fifth and sixth, which categories are your highest and lowest expenses? This helps you identify where most of your money is going and where you might have opportunities to cut costs. Okay. And on this one, I'm going to give an example of when you're purchasing. There's a couple of tips and strategies that I like to look for when we're talking about expenses. One, let's just say that you're going to make a big purchase and you start loading up your cart on Amazon or something, wherever you buy. And then you start to be like, wow, oh, this is inexpensive. And you add this and you add that. And then you go to look at your cart and there's hundreds of dollars, right? So little tip, close your app, Don't look at it for a couple of days and then come back. And what you'll see is like, do I really need that? Okay, no, I'm gonna save on that. Well, I'll save it for later. You can do that on Amazon, right? As a childcare provider, you might check your inventory closet. Some of us as childcare centers, we have teachers that like to hoard supplies, right? And so one teacher might come to you and say, Melinda, I need more construction paper. I need more glue. And I'm going to order. She needs it, right? But once I learned this, before I did that, I would go to all the other teachers and like, does anybody have extra? And sure enough, there was that one teacher that had packs and packs of construction paper and glue. And so that might help with some expenses. Okay. Just keep that in mind that, you want to try and do some of those little tips. Another thing when you're purchasing in a grocery store, like if you're buying food and supplies, you go to Costco and you buy a large amount of food and you buy supplies, you can go to the register and ask them to total your amounts. So if you put all of your supplies together, all of your food together, and you ask them to total it after each bunch, that'll help you with receipts and having to add stuff up. Okay. And it'll also give you a faster way to look at how much you're spending. Okay. And to identify those higher and lower expenses. Okay. Seventh and eighth, which categories are your highest and lowest revenue? This helps you understand which aspects of your business are bringing in the most money and which might need more attention or development. Okay. By answering these questions for each of your scenarios, best case, base case, and worst case, you'll gain a comprehensive understanding of your business's financial dynamics under different conditions. Based on your cash flow analysis, you might discover that you need to improve your cash position by increasing revenue, reducing expenses, or adjusting the time of your cash flows. Let's explore some practical strategies specifically tailored to childcare businesses that can help you improve your cash flow situation. If you've completed your analysis and you find that you need to increase your revenue to improve your cash flow, here are some strategies to consider. And you might be doing these already, or you have done these, but it's good to be reminded of things that you can do. First, you might need to increase your enrollment. If you have room in your program, this can be the most cost-effective way to build revenue. Start by asking your current families if they know of other families in need of care who they could refer you to. Word of mouth referrals are often the most effective for childcare programs. You also might want to reach out to your local childcare resource and referral agency and others to find out if there are families who need care. Even adding just 1 or 2 children can significantly impact your revenue without substantially increasing your costs. Second, consider switching from monthly to weekly billing. If you currently charge $1,000 per month, most people assume that works out to about $250 per week. But some months have 5 weeks, which translates to an additional $1,000 per year per child. This method can be an effective way to increase cash on hand if you have families who consistently pay on time. However, if you have families who often miss payments, this approach can be challenging because it may mean more frequent follow-up. It can also mean more trips to the bank and more data entry on your end. So weigh the costs and benefits for your specific situation. Another key strategy for improving cash flow is to speed up your billing and collections process. You should bill as soon as possible, but don't let money owed to you wait. It may be a difficult conversation with families, but the cash is critical to keeping your business and the service they rely upon alive. So, as childcare providers, we always wear the childcare provider hat. We love kids. This is what we do. And that's what I had to learn. Okay. I didn't do budgets, but as childcare directors, owners, family childcare owners, you have to take off the care provider hat and put on the business hat. This is your livelihood. This is your business. This is how you make money. It's not that don't want to help families or you don't love children. It's just you also want to survive and you want to be sustainable and you want to be around for families that might need you later. So it might be hard to do, but you really have to toughen up and say, I really need you to make your payments. I really need to keep my business alive. Most families understand that. Okay. Consider childcare management systems too that can help with automated billing while also cutting administrative costs. Digital payment options like Venmo or similar apps can facilitate faster payments by making it more convenient for parents to pay immediately. Another effective approach is to have parents pay before services are rendered. For example, requiring tuition for the coming month to be paid by the 25th of the current month. This ensures you have cash in hand before you incur the expenses of providing childcare. Having clear, consistent policies about payment, timing, and late fees also helps establish expectations with families and encourages prompt payment. Just remember to enforce these policies consistently to maintain their effectiveness. If we start allowing for, okay, I'll allow you this one, parents will notice and they'll notice, well, you gave her a break. Why can't you give me one? So you have to stay firm on these. Reducing your expenses is another effective way to improve your cash flow. Let's look at some specific strategies for childcare businesses. Find the best prices for toys, materials, and equipment. Buying used toys can save you significant amounts of money. Check out your local Facebook selling groups. Goodwill and the Salvation Army often have toys available. Try visiting these stores early in the week after weekend donations. And using a credit card with cashback rewards for business expenses can provide additional purchasing power. In addition, look for ways to get discounts through large purchase programs like the one available through any EYC members. These member benefits can often save you 10 to 20% on supplies you're already purchasing. Also, take a look at recurring subscriptions. These often accumulate over time. We don't realize how many we actually have or the impact that they have monthly on our monthly cash flow. For example, you might be paying for multiple streaming services for children's content when one would suffice. Review your bank statement and credit card statements, specifically looking for recurring charges, and determine which subscriptions you truly need and which you can eliminate. And you would think about this one, oh, I got a bundle of, I'll give an example. Disney, Hulu, and MGM for $8.99 a month. Ooh, for the first 3 months. Yeah, you get them free. That sounds great, but then we forget, right? And after 3 months, it goes from $8.99 to $24.99. Now, $9 times 12, you do the math, I'm not going to, compared to $25 times 12, that's a significant change. It adds up. So you may not think, oh, well, it's not that bad. But when you do it over the long term, it definitely adds up. So here are 2 additional strategies to consider for improving your cash flow. First, consider federal programs. There are 2 federal programs that can be claimed retroactively for, oh, you know what? I'm not going to mention these because these are no longer in use. I'm sorry. However, I will mention that there are tax credits that you can take advantage of. And I know of those possibilities. Okay, so I'm not going to mention those. You can use automation to save time, which ultimately saves you money. Look for ways to stretch your time and your staff's time through apps and other programs. A childcare management system can help with billing, attendance, and other functions. Online systems like Gusto and FreshBooks can help with payroll and bookkeeping. Even a free program like Google Docs can be used to collect attestations and other forms online, reducing the paperwork and administrative time. So if it takes you 2 days to do payroll, and you can use an app that will do it in a couple of hours, that's money you're saving for than having and time, because what's that saying? Time is money, right? So you want to make sure that you can save in that sense. Remember, your time has value too. Every hour you spend on administrative tasks is an hour you're not spending on program quality, parent engagement, or personal renewal, all of which ultimately impact your business's success. Okay, so now let's open it up for questions. Okay, do we have any questions? And I'm going to look into the chat here. Does anybody have any questions? You can come off chat if you'd like, or mute if you'd like to as well. I explained it that well. There's no questions. Everybody's great. Like, I'm that good. Any idea? Any comments? Whitney, we can barely hear you. I'm sorry, Whitney. Anybody else? Okay. Well, maybe, yes, if you can type it in the chat, Whitney. Good suggestion, Kristen. Kiss your brain. That's what I tell the kids, right? Kiss your brain. No, we don't want to miss out. What if you have a question that could be valuable to someone else? We can wait. We can wait for you to type it up. We'll patiently wait.
While we're waiting for any questions, I just have to say, I mean, I know every child care provider does things differently at every program, whether they're at the center level or a family child care home. And it is, like you said, there's so many different options that there's no right or wrong way to do it, but you have to do it. So I really appreciate all of your help today and advice, and I hope that lots of folks um, and also watch the recording of this too. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's true. It's intimidating, it's scary. But once you get started and you start practicing, this is why I really like to talk about this. And so just looking at Whitney's comment, what she said is that yes, we want to do it for about 6 months. Okay. And one, you start practicing, right? If you do your budget every month, and I like to play like even little games with myself on a monthly basis. Now, this is not going to work for like maybe some big childcare, right? If you're a big childcare, I get it. But if you're a family childcare, there's some like little tricks that I would do as a small business. Like, and I'm just going to say a small number just to keep it easy, right? Um, for example, let's just say you've done all your bills and everything and you're good and you have $100 left and your next income or revenue that comes in 10 days. Okay. So now with that $100, you've got to make it the 10 days, right? So what I do is I do a little game, and again, it's more than that, but what I do is I break it down by day, right? And it's like a mini budget. And I say, okay, I've got $10 today, $10 for 10 days. Okay. So guess what? Instead of going and buying a burger or going and buying a purse for that dollar, $2, I'm going to save it. And so, yeah, okay. I buy the purse, $2. That leaves me $8 and I carry that over into the next day, right? And so now I have on day two, I have $18 that I can spend. And then if I don't spend any money, then I carry it over to the next day and I have $38 that I can spend. And if you look at that, like, even on a grander scale, especially like if you're looking at your 6 month cash flow, that's exactly what's happening. Your monthly budget, if you're in the green or the black, as they say, you're positive. So guess what? That money carries over and it carries over and it becomes like, okay, how much more can I get? Because if you start to do the math at the end of the 6 months, you see a really good big amount, or uh-oh, you know what? I'm doing not good. So I need to make a change. Okay. And so those are the things that we recommend when you're looking at that. Okay. So get in the practice, play the little games. Okay, I got 2,000 left over this month. Woohoo! I'm gonna not spend on Amazon this month. I'm not gonna buy this big old toy that I really like. And I do this personally. I do this all the time. And it's just helped me. And it made budgeting and it made forecasting and understanding where my money was going and where it was coming from a lot more fun. And it took away the scare, right? And if you really think about it, it's just basic math. You get money in, you use it. If you don't have money in, there's nothing to use. So it's just simple math. And so, I try to encourage that. Yeah, does anybody else have any tricks that they would like to share? Thank you, Kristen. Any other tricks? I'm all about, just learning how to um little things like I said, when you're purchasing, going away from the purchase. I have to close out my app. No, I don't need this right now. I want it. There's a save for later on your Amazon. I learned that not too long ago, by the way. It just came to me. So those are always good. Okay. All right. Well, we are just you're more than welcome to continue to put any questions in the chat, but let's go over some key takeaways. Um, cash flow management is essential for the sustainability of your childcare business. It gives you visibility into your financial future and it helps you make informed decisions. Second, regular forecasting, ideally updated weekly or at least monthly, helps you anticipate challenges before they become crisis. This proactive approach reduces stress and it creates more stability for your business. Third, small changes can significantly impact your financial health. So whether it's speeding up collections, reducing unnecessary expenses, or increasing enrollment, these adjustments compound over time should create a stronger financial foundation. And finally, start simple and build your process over time. Okay. Like I said, just start practicing. And like Kristen said, just do it. Commit. And don't let it be like a New Year's resolution, right? Where you start and then fall off. Got to keep going. Okay. So you don't need a complex financial system to begin forecasting cash flow. Just start with the 5 basic process we've discussed, and then you can refine your approach and once you get more comfortable with it. Okay. All right. So thank you. In case we weren't able to answer any questions during today's webinar, you can always visit the Tom Copeland blog and it's full of information. And most likely you'll find the answer there to any questions. Don't forget to subscribe to our monthly newsletter to stay in the know. And so if you can't find answers you're looking for in the resources, post your question in the Ask the Experts section of the blog and we'll get back to you. Okay. All right. Well, be sure to visit Civitas Strategies YouTube channel as well for more valuable resources to support you in your business. And thank you so much for joining us here this afternoon and hope to see you again. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thanks so much.